Hey there guys, Nick from Puzzle Solutions. We're just going to show you a very quick feature which Xero team have rolled out for you. It is the new consolidated invoice export feature. So what on earth is that? Well, if I've worked with you recently, you would be aware that the Xero team for a long time have been trying to make it a bit easier to push over the invoices from Practice Manager when you approve them into Blue Xero. This is for presentation purposes, of course. The issue up until now has been that every task item or every cost item on a job has to go through to its own line item in the Blue Xero invoice. So not so good if you have 20 disbursements for mileage or for software charges like Xero charges. Not so good where you want to report work in progress across an array of tasks for a single job, say annual accounts, preparation of drafts, finalization, etc., etc. Yet you just want to present one fee line item. So up until now, the way to work around it has been to have one singular task on a job, which has been the standard method or best practice method up until now. But now with this actual feature, if you go check out this Xero Blog here or WorkflowMax, see it's got a bit of information through here. But basically, now that you've got that, you can actually have two options. One to push through a job description, or one to push over the task narrations and ignore Xero balances, which is pretty cool. So just to show you, we're in the business settings under the Xero connection settings. If we scroll down, this is where you can find the good juice through here. So we can see you might want to start with the draft export method. This means that just while you're getting used to it, you don't have to worry about voiding those invoices in the meantime. Although I do say to people it's best practice to, once you've bedded in your process, to have this on the approved button through here. The main reason being is, I guess it's just avoiding any duplication. If you've got confidence around the presentation from XPM, then you perhaps don't need to go through and as a second step approve those again inside Xero. So if you can, work towards approved, but certainly while you're getting used to it, draft might be a good idea. Now, for most of you, you should be using a Xero numbering sequence, which means it just keeps in sync with anything inside the Xero system. You've got the invoice description, which is just another field that you can use. Now, here's the cool stuff. So under the details, you've now got the ability to use the individual tasks and costs. Now, that might be what you've got at the moment. You can also see that you can deselect, like I've got here, showing tasks with any Xero value. This means that if you've written off or an amount under a certain task or cost item down to Xero and it's carrying a Xero balance, no longer will it actually push through as its own line item inside Blue Xero. Really cool stuff. We've been waiting there for a long time, so stoked to see that. Very happy. But basically, this is some really cool stuff through here. You can also put it on the job mode, and instead of using the actual tasks or cost items that will be itemized on each line on the invoice, you can actually use the job name and description. You can also use other placeholders. If I hold Shift plus and the little squiggly through here, you can see a few of these options. Now, some of them may not be overly relative. I think maybe the job name, job description is going to be the most. Task description is possibly a bit overkill if you're going to put it all in the job description anyway. However, really cool options. So this here would work on the job descriptions under the job name, job description, job name, job description. So I've just got a few different jobs set up here, job name, job description, and it would work off those instead. Okay, so let me show you how it just works quickly. So let's just work off the totals just to start with, and this means that no tasks, no costs are going to be pushed over. It's just purely a total for the job and the name and description in this case through here. Okay, so I'll hit save. Great. I'm going to go to my work in progress manager here, the work in progress menu, and I'm going to select all my jobs that I want to raise a fee for, select invoice. I'm just going to treat it on a progress basis for now, and let's go take a look at the invoice through here. So I guess the first thing, as you're aware, is probably fixed pricing this invoice so you get the desired amounts. So we're going to select fixed price. Okay, you can see I've got a couple of different tasks here for the accounting services or the annual accounts job. I'm going to write that up to $1,500 if that was my fee agreement. The tax return, we can put that in there as well, $450. Great, so I've got a total $1,950 for that job there. Company annual return, let's just say we've worn a bit extra time on that than we needed to. It should have only been $120, and we want to write down the actual cost on that annual return job just so that it sticks to the $120 fee cost for that annual return. So this is the cool stuff through here. Now under tasks, under GST return through here, the last job that we've got, I'm going to just write that up. So effectively, we have got the 3 jobs, right? 3 jobs starting at the top, annual accounting, company annual return, and writing down the task, or writing down the cost, I should say. And we've got the GST job at the bottom there. So let's hit approve. Excellent. We'll go into Xero and we'll refresh our draft invoices list. And we can see it's come over there. Okay, and you can see with the job names and the job descriptions, it's pulled these all across through here. Okay, so nothing related to the tasks or the costs. We're still happy to wear the write-ons or write-offs for those tasks and costs as we need to, but you can present the invoice very easily just with the totals here. Really cool. Do keep in mind that one provision to this here is if you were used to doing interim fees, for example, under the financial tab, this has been quite a handy workaround up until now, where you can, for example, issue an interim amount. Okay, now that is actually using a cost description, so that won't work so well when you push the invoice to Xero, because it's going to use the job name and description once you've made those settings. So unfortunately you can't change it at an invoice level. It has to be set at a settings level for the practice. So again, that's just worth noting that if you do a lot of those interim deposit amounts, that may not be so ideal. But let's have a look at setting it on the task and cost rates. Now, do make sure that you don't have any placeholders in here, otherwise that's going to make the invoice look really busy. So do take them out so that you're only showing the task names. Tick these so that you do get your fee paragraphs underneath if you've got them loaded in as task descriptions, and the same with costs as well. So that being said, I'll hit save. Fantastic, and we'll go back into the WIP manager, and let's try it this time with the tasks. Okay. There we go, raised as a progress fee again. Going through very quickly, but getting back into the draft invoice, we'll fixed price it. We're going to do exactly the same thing as we did before. So we'll go 1500, and we'll put the tax return in there at 450. Great. 120 for the annual return. We'll write down the cost for the return, and we'll put the GST back up at 250. Okay, so I've got the 3 jobs in there fixed at the right prices that I want. I've written off the cost on that annual return again. Same thing, I'll hit approve. And we'll select the draft invoices list and refresh. Okay, let's take a look at it this time. Excellent. So you can see that it has pushed through all of the different line items we now have at a task level. You can see the annual accounting, the tax return, the annual return, the GSTs, but it has ignored the Xero cost amount for the disbursement for that. So that's a huge improvement to what was there beforehand. So of course, one other way of working around that, if you didn't want the tax return in there, is to write up the accounting services package and write down the actual tax return. Yes, you will wear a write-off for the one task, but on the other hand, you've just written up the accounting task. So a lot of practices would find that's actually a reasonable way to work around it. So certainly this is giving you a lot more flexibility with the invoicing than you've previously had. You just need to make a decision again at the practice settings level how you want to approach that. Is it going to be on a task and cost itemized basis, the way that you've been doing it up until now? And if so, make sure you clear this out under the job summary and remove the task with 0 values. Okay. Alternatively, will you decide to push through just a job total amount with perhaps the name and description instead? Now, this would assume that perhaps in your job templates or those jobs as you're setting them up, you have got a reasonable job description pulling through. So there you go. Hopefully that has been helpful, but do sing out if you get stuck. Feel free to email nick@puzzlesolutions.co.nz, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.